Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Lincolnshire series, a district of 56 parishes in the north of Lincolnshire. Let's see which one we're visiting today. Welcome back to North Lincolnshire, everybody. Now, if you watched last week's episode, you'll know exactly where I am right here. This is Water's Edge, which is a newish estate just to the north of this road right here. That's the B1206, which runs into the town of Brigg, which is over there. Under that bridge is the River Ancholme, and over the road, that is Scawby Parish. That's Ancholme Leisure Centre, which faces the road the other way. Now, Water's Edge, though, forms part of a different parish that's not Brigg, and it's not Scawby. It's part of Broughton. This North Lincolnshire episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find her link in the description. And this video is also sponsored by Jamie's Fitness Studio, based on Low Road, Graham, near Curtin in Lindsay. Jamie is one busy lady. Check her out by calling 07906 749 574 or emailing hello@jamies.co.uk. Online membership is available. There's a link to her Facebook page in the description. Jamie's Fitness Studio. Get fit, get happy, get healthy. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Broughton is a small North Lincolnshire town situated on Ermine Street, approximately 2 miles northwest of the larger town of Brigg. The hamlets of Wressle and Castlethorpe lie within its boundaries, as does the Water's Edge area of Scawby Brook, alongside the new River Ancholme. Broughton is a common name in England with several origins. The Lincolnshire name comes from an Old English word, beorg, and it means farmstead by a hill or mound. The mound in this case here may have been the site of the Roman station Pretorium from about 400 AD. In the Domesday Book of 1086, the name appears as Bertone. In more modern times, Broughton's population would grow thanks to two industrial reasons. These were the proximity of Scunthorpe Steelworks and of Brigg, which was a major centre for shipping. Broughton's population currently stands at almost 6,000 because it's kept growing ever since. It's ideally situated close to the M180, which makes it a desirable place for commuters to live. In essence, it feels less like a town and more like a large village. Though considered by many to be a village, it became a town in 1974, although it still has a village hall. Let's get walking and see what delights Broughton can bring us. We begin at Water's Edge. This is where we left off last week in Scawby. Water's Edge refers to a very familiar watercourse on this channel. That would be the new River Ancholme, which forms the parish boundary with Brigg to the east. Residents of Water's Edge have campaigned in the past for the boundary to be moved, as a lot of folks here see themselves as having more in common with Brigg than they do with Broughton. Broughton Town Council is against the changing of the boundary. On the other side of the river is Island Carr, and it literally is an island because it sits between the river's new and old branches. The A18 road bridge over the new branch, which we saw last week, was designed by John Rennie and was built in 1827. Water's Edge has a parish notice board of its own, and you can see on this that Broughton styles itself as a town. Whatever you want to call it, it's got a card now, and we're down to 10 in North Lincolnshire. Now, Water's Edge isn't the only part of Broughton Parish which is not in Broughton itself. There are two little hamlets. One's called Castlethorpe and the other one is called Wressle. And to get to Broughton, we need to drive through both of them. So have a guess where this camera's about to go. So let's go for a drive. This is the A18, not the B1206, as I wrongly said in the intro. The A18 becomes the B1206 at a roundabout, which we'll come to shortly. We're driving along the parish boundary by doing this, and it splits Scawby Brook into two pieces. Water's Edge forms most of the northern part of Scawby Brook, whilst the southern portion lies within Scawby Parish. It's one of those weird boundary situations, so I can see why people want the lines to be redrawn. After turning right at the roundabout, we're heading for Castlethorpe. Keep your eyes in the centre of the screen and you'll see an old windmill sticking up into the blue Lincolnshire sky. That's the 18th century Castlethorpe Mill. It's been turned into a pub, which has gone by a couple of names. One of them was Artie's Mill, and I've included a picture of it in today's picture bit. These days it's known as the Millfield, and it's a popular location for food locally. That's not the only mill that was once active in this part of the world. Broughton itself has an old watermill. Anyway, now we're between Castlethorpe and Wressle. Off the B1208, which is the road between them, is Brick Hills Farm. This has a small industrial estate, and at Unit 5 is Bentley's Garage. Not the sort of thing I'd purposely show you normally, but apparently these guys are top draw, and I'm all for championing local businesses. Check them out, folks. And from here we drive into Wressle, which is a small linear affair based around a crossroads and surrounded by flat open commons. A variety of items including stone tools have been found on those commons before now. They suggest a settlement has existed in this part of Lincolnshire since at least Neolithic times. To go with those, shards of pottery were discovered at a house on Ermine Street in 1956, thought to date back to the Bronze Age. So now we're in Broughton itself, and I've lost the coat because it's starting to get warm now, and this is a long route, so I'll be better off without it. Now, when I drove into this place, underneath its sign it says Best Kept Small Town 2020 to 2022. Let's go and see if those claims are true. Our walk around Broughton starts at the village allotments, and yes, I can hear the fans from here. These are situated opposite Greyfriars Road, which in turn is off Brigg Road at the town's southeastern corner. Walking up Brigg Road, next we have Broughton's primary school. Whilst this is the current school, Broughton's first was a national school built here in 1849 by the Earl of Yarborough. It was enlarged in 1896 to hold 300 students. And on that same educational theme, check out this building. This is the former Broughton Infant School, which dates from 1925. This closed when it merged with another school to form the current Broughton Primary School. After a £60,000 investment, it's now used as a youth centre, a community hub for Broughton's older residents, and also as a school car park and drop-off point. Little Acorns Preschool is also based within the building. So in typical North Lincolnshire fashion, the phone box here has got plant pots in it, but there's nothing in them at the moment, so it's pretty much just an empty shell currently. Okay, this brings us to a junction where we find a Methodist church, and it says 1849 on the side of it. Indeed, 1849 is the date that this building was erected. This is still an active Methodist chapel. Broughton used to have another one, but all that remains of that one is its schoolhouse. I'll show you where that is later. Now it's the High Street, briefly, and Broughton doesn't do too badly for shops. Here's a Today's Local on the corner of Brooklands Avenue. The town also has a large co-op, a tea rooms, and a couple of takeaways, all of which we will see. It's Scawby Road next, and here we have the town's playing field. This has a large playground and a number of football pitches. Overlooking it all is a large community hall. That's the Phil Grundy Centre. It has a sports hall large enough to play five-a-side football, badminton and many other sports. The centre has many meeting rooms and it belongs to the residents of Broughton and is managed by the Town Council for the community's benefit. And of course you don't need to be a genius to work out that Scawby Road will take you to Scawby. Okay, we're going to head back down the other way. Just before we do, we have Amber House, which is that building all the way over there. Let's talk a bit about this next. Providing for up to 13 people, Amber House was established in 2012. This is one of North Lincolnshire's leading providers of services to adults with autism and/or learning disabilities. The building was originally a rectory. On the corner of the High Street and Scawby Lane is Broughton's War Memorial, which features a pensive-looking soldier. To go with this, there's a tablet in the parish church which bears the names of 31 men who fell in World War I. Next, it's a bus stop, and here you can catch two services. These are the number 4 and the number 4C. The number 4 runs from Scunthorpe to Kermington, whilst the 4C connects Scunthorpe to Brigg. This stop is outside the Red Lion. The Red Lion is one of 3 pubs in Broughton. Located on the High Street, this one has been around since at least 1842. Inside there are 3 separate rooms, one of which features a large picture of a red lion on the wall. And right next door to the pub, we've got a chippy. This is Scalinis, Broughton's fish and chip shop. Next we come to the Lit Gate of St Mary's, which is Broughton's parish church. The Lit Gate itself was quite interesting. I liked the carving on it, and in the middle it reads, "The evening brings all home." St Mary's Church can safely be dated from 1066, although the tower is possibly earlier. Regardless, this has been Broughton's centre of Christian worship for at least the last 900 years. That worship continues to this day with regular weekly services. The church is one of 4 Anglo-Saxon churches in Lincolnshire. The tower was built in the early 11th century as a tower nave, meaning the chamber at the foot of the tower was where the congregation stood for services. Abutting the tower is an Anglo-Saxon stair turret, which appears to have been built against the already standing tower. There are a few other examples of cylindrical stair turrets in the UK, but Brixworth in Northamptonshire is the only other to have this same helical concrete construction. We've seen a lot already, but we haven't really gone very far. All we've done really is walk down 2 streets effectively. And there's still more to see yet along this one. Up next we have the village hall, and outside the village hall there's a very interesting structure which you might just be able to see right there. Broughton Village Hall looks wildly different to what it used to 20 years ago. I've included a picture of it from 2003 in today's picture bit. The work that's gone on here since has transformed it completely. Next door is Broughton's Community Library. This is one of 14 such libraries in North Lincolnshire, 15 if you count the mobile one. You might recall we saw the mobile one a few weeks ago in Bertone upon Stather. Outside the library is a clock tower. Known as the Jubilee Clock, this was erected to commemorate the Silver Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II in 1977. It stood the test of time well, and yes, that pun was intended. Just beyond that is a Chinese takeaway and Nanny Ann's tea room. The latter is something of a rare find. As well as being a tea rooms, Nanny Ann's is a traditional sweet shop. If you like aniseed balls and pear drops, this is your go-to place. And opposite all of that which I've just shown you is this building here, which I believe probably was a post office. And again, you don't need to be a genius to know why, because there's a pillar box just here. I've come across the road because I like the look of this little cute bird. Is it a chick or something? It's a beautiful bit of yarn bombing anyway, which is fabulous. And between the shops and the village hall over there, there's also a block of toilets. I don't mind if I do. That was a blessed relief. Next we hit a roundabout where we find the Dog and Rat, the second of the 3 pubs. This is a post-World War I establishment. In 1930, a beer retailer by the name of Fred Quickfall ran this place. Next door is a Lincolnshire co-op food store, which thankfully has a working cash machine again after it was vandalised in 2017. I'm sure locals will remember the incident vividly, as it involved a piece of farm machinery. Our next job is to check out what's behind these houses. To the west and the north of Broughton, there are extensive woodlands that stretch towards Dragonby, Scunthorpe and Appleby, and when I say extensive, I mean extensive. This is Broughton West Wood. There is an East Wood too, which is located further north and to the east, adjoining Wressle. You're able to circumnavigate Westwood using footpaths, a route which takes just over an hour. Make no mistake about it, this is a vast area of woodland. It goes for ages and ages towards the west. And of course, there's no point walking around all of it. All I'm doing really is walking up this path until it meets another one that takes us back to the road. There's no point walking around much more than this because it all looks pretty much the same, you would have thought, unless there are some weird and wonderful landmarks inside the wood that I'm unaware of. But yeah, this is Westwood. It's possible to follow a 4.5 kilometre footpath through the woods to Santon. If you do walk it, you'll pass the site of Goakwell Priory, which in the late 12th century housed a community of nuns. After a short walk north from the woods, we're at Broughton Cemetery, which occupies a plot of land which was set aside in the late 1800s. It's a small cemetery considering the size of the town, and it's well kept too. Like Wressle, Broughton has a few open areas. This one, for example, sits behind the cemetery. Some of these open areas have yielded interesting finds. In 1850, burials were unearthed on the commons to the northeast of Broughton. And walking across that area takes us into one of Broughton's many housing estates. This is Appleby Gardens, which would appear to be one of the newest areas of the town. It seems Broughton keeps expanding ever outwards. Okay, so the rest of the route is basically a series of housing estates, and I imagine there aren't many landmarks to talk about between here and getting back to the car. The ones that I do find, of course, I will talk about, but from this point on, I think it's really just residential, and it goes for a long way. I say a series of housing estates. I'm at the north of Broughton here, and of course my car is parked at the south, and it's a long way between the two. It's not all residential, but landmarks are a little hard to come by now. Here on Brooklands Avenue is Broughton Surgery, which has an adjoining pharmacy. This works in partnership with Riverside Surgery in Brigg. Off Brooklands Avenue is quite possibly the most unusual street name I've ever seen. This is Harry's Dream. There are so many questions here. Who's Harry? Was he a local? What was he dreaming about? It's a fascinating corner of town, this. Here's something a bit more conventional. In the centre of Broughton's housing estates, there's a beck. Called Ella Beck, it makes its way north to Wressle before emptying into the west drain of the River Ancholme. The marshy area around the beck as it passes through Broughton has been turned into a wildlife habitat known as Broughton Pocket Park. This includes a central footway which links various areas of Broughton together. I'll tell you what this reminds me of. It reminds me of Hemmingborough and the walkway which we saw there in that episode towards the north of that village, if you can recall it from the Selby series. It's very similar. Clip, clop, under your feet. After a few more residential streets, we come to an area where all the streets make a reference to Nozay, a French commune in the Loire-Atlantique department of Western France, with which Broughton is twinned. A footpath then leads us to Town Hill Drive, again a pretty normal residential street. Can you tell I was struggling to find bits to talk about at this point? Don't worry, there's a couple more interesting things yet. Almost round, it's Chapel Road next. The chapel this makes reference to was Close Chapel, the one I mentioned earlier. It was a primitive Methodist chapel which closed in 1958 and was demolished by 1961. Our last landmark is the third and final pub. This is the Thatch Inn, which used to be called Ye Olde Thatch Inn. This opened in around 1900. Broughton Working Men's Club, which was quite possibly a local haunt for the local steelworkers, is over the road. That's quite the impressive pub, that, the Thatch Inn. There's a rainbow on the wall. Don't know whether you saw that in the previous shot. All the colours of the rainbow have got like little keys on them with initials. I wonder what they're all about. Anyway, so we've got the Working Men's Club over the road, and then next to the pub on this side is Broughton Auto Sales. It's a garage, and that pretty much brings us almost to the end of the route, because up here is Mill Lane, which is where I will turn right just there, and that will take me back down to Greyfriars Road, where I began. Quite a long route. I think I've been going for nearly 2 hours. It's a big old place, is Broughton. You don't realise how big it is when you look at it on the map, and then when you come to walk around it, it's much further than you think. And with it being mainly residential up in its sort of northern reaches, it becomes a bit of a slog, because there's not really much to sort of engage you, not much to talk about. But I think I've found some bits and bobs. Okay, as I make my way back to the car, you guys need today's picture bit. Okay, I've got one more thing to do here in Broughton, and that's take you down to Forest Pines, which is it's a golf course more than anything else, but there are a few other things which it's famed for, and it's not that way because that's back towards Wressle. It's this way. So I'm going to hop into the car and drive down there to finish off the parish of Broughton. To the south of the woods sits one of the few 4-star hotels in the area. This is a Hilton hotel which is known locally as Forest Pines. It occupies 190 acres of land. Part of that land features a renowned 27-hole championship golf course. The hotel has it all. It features 188 spacious bedrooms, an outstanding health club and spa, a state-of-the-art conference and event centre, and 3 fantastic and unique restaurants. It's an extremely popular place all round. Forest Pines Golf Course was designed by John Morgan and is considered one of the best championship courses in the country. In fact, in 2019, it was voted the best course in the east of England by readers of the golfing magazine Today's Golfer. In all, this is a unique corner of Broughton Parish, which feels like a million miles away. Oh, and by the way, the car park is lined with ANPR cameras, so if you visit, be sure to enter your registration number at the hotel desk. Forest Pines is accessed pretty easily from the motorway network thanks to this little spur of the A18, which leads to junction 4 of the M180. On the right in the lay-by is Starkey's Cafe, which I believe is popular with local truckers. Junction 4 is known as Broughton Interchange, and it's where the M180, A15 and A18 all meet. It opened in 1977 after the second phase of the M180 was completed hurriedly following the Flixborough disaster. When it did, the only road it had a junction with was the A18. That's because at that time the A15 didn't run to the motorway. Instead, it ran through Hibblestow and Redbourne to Brigg. It wasn't until 1990 that the A15 would join this junction. Anyway, that's enough about the junction. All that's left to do now is to use it to get onto the M180 westbound and head for home. That's been the town of Broughton, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.